Welcome to a tale of mystery and courage, where the shadows of a dark forest conceal ancient secrets and unseen dangers. Join us on a journey through eerie landscapes and chilling encounters as we uncover the truth that lurks beyond the twilight. Prepare to delve into a world where bravery meets the unknown. Welcome to our story. Night slowly descended upon the dense forest, which, as if lulled, closed itself off with a thick dome of ancient pines and spruces. Melissa, a young girl with long chestnut hair, wandered along the path, trying not to lose her way. Darkness thickened, and her phone was nearly dead, illuminating the road with only a dim light. She decided to take a shortcut through the forest to cut the way to her friend's house, but found herself trapped in the night wilderness. Everything had started quite ordinarily, a fun evening with friends, conversations and laughter, but deciding to leave earlier than usual, Melissa did not expect that this path would change her life forever. The quiet rustle of the wind in the tree branches was suddenly drowned out by a faint, barely discernible cry. Helped Melissa stopped and strained her ears. The cry sounded again, this time more loudly and closer. It sounded like a woman weeping and pleading for help. The girl's heart began to beat faster, but she couldn't ignore someone in distress. All her instincts urged her to run away, but her sense of humanity won out. "Who's there?" she called out, trying not to shake. In response, she heard another cry, this time even more desperate. Melissa decided to follow the sound. She walked carefully on the soft moss, avoiding the bushes and roots that poked out of the ground. The voice led her deeper into the forest, the cries becoming more piercing. The girl started to imagine all sorts of nightmarish creatures that could be hiding behind every tree, but the thought that someone needed help kept her going. After a few minutes, the girl found herself in a small clearing. The voice stopped abruptly, and the clearing fell silent. At that moment, she realized that she was surrounded by an intense and eerie silence. There were no sounds of nocturnal animals, no rustling of the wind in the leaves, and not a hint of other living creatures around her. Suddenly, something caught her eye, and Melissa turned her head to look. But it was too late. The darkness surrounded her, and the world went black. She felt a sharp pain in the back of her head and collapsed to the ground, losing consciousness. The morning in the small town started with alarming news. Melissa had not returned home, and her worried parents had contacted the police. Detective Jack Hunt, an experienced investigator with a stern face and a perceptive gaze, took on the case. He knew that every moment was crucial, so he set out to find the girl as soon as possible. Hunt had seen a lot in his life: brutal murders, disappearances, and mysterious cases. But this case seemed special to him. Maybe because it was his hometown, and he felt responsible for its residents. Hunt carefully inspected the forest where Melissa had last been seen. The tracks showed that she had indeed walked along the path, but then the trail had vanished. He noticed broken branches and marks on the ground, indicating that someone had been roughly grabbed and dragged away. The detective sensed that something was amiss. He knew that the forest held its own secrets, and he was determined to uncover them. He couldn't allow any mistakes. Every detail was crucial in this investigation. Immersing himself deeper into the forest, Hunt stumbled upon the very clearing where Melissa had disappeared. He stopped and listened attentively. Suddenly, he heard a faint, muffled cry coming from the depths of the forest. The detective took out his flashlight and followed the sound, trying to stay unnoticed. His experience told him that there was something more here than just a random disappearance. The forest was too quiet, and it worried him. The tracks led him to an old, abandoned cabin standing in the middle of the forest. It looked as if no one had lived there for a long time, but Hunt felt that something sinister was hidden here. The detective slowly approached the door, trying not to make any noise. The door was ajar, and strange sounds came from inside. He heard whispers, knocking, as if someone was trying to free themselves. Entering inside, Hunt saw a narrow staircase leading to the basement. It was dark downstairs, but he could clearly hear whispers and moans. Gathering his courage, the detective descended the creaky steps. What he saw in the basement made his blood run cold. In the corner of the basement sat Melissa, tied up and terrified. Next to her stood something that could not be called human. The creature, resembling a monster from nightmares, turned to Hunt, its eyes gleaming in the dark. The detective froze, realizing the full danger of the situation. "Don't move," the monster hissed, its voice low and threatening. Hunt, without flinching, slowly raised his hands, trying to show that he was not a threat. "I've come for the girl. Let her go, and I'll leave," he said. The monster laughed, its laugh cold and empty. "You don't understand. She belongs to me. And so do you." Hunt knew that negotiations would lead to nothing good. He took a step forward, hoping that his experience and intuition would help him in this deadly situation. At that moment, Melissa took advantage of the monster's distraction and tried to free herself. The creature was momentarily distracted, and Hunt, seizing the opportunity, lunged at it. A fierce struggle ensued, with the detective using all his skills to neutralize the creature. The battle was not easy. The monster was powerful and cunning. However, Hunt managed to hold his ground, utilizing improvised objects and his remarkable endurance. Finally, Hunt managed to strike the monster on the head, and it collapsed to the floor. Hunt quickly ran to Melissa and freed her. "Let's get out of here before it wakes up," he said. They rushed to the exit, leaving the sinister basement behind. Melissa, exhausted and frightened, could barely walk, but Hunt supported her, trying to move as quickly as possible. When they got to the fresh air, Melissa began to cry with relief. Hunt hugged her tightly, trying to calm her down. "You're safe, but we must keep silent about what happened," he said. "If anyone finds out, the monster might come back, and next time it might not leave us any chances." Melissa nodded, understanding the seriousness of the situation. They agreed to tell no one about what they had seen. Hunt knew that many things remain unexplained, and he did not want to risk the lives of other people. He escorted Melissa home, and the light of hope reappeared in her eyes. And the forest, which they would never return to, remained to keep its dark secrets. But the story did not end there. Weeks passed, and Melissa tried to return to normal life. Her parents were happy that she returned safe and sound, although they did not know the whole truth about her disappearance. However, nightmares continued to haunt her. She saw those terrible eyes of the monster in her dreams, his cold laugh, and felt that the danger had not yet passed. Hunt also couldn't forget what had happened. He felt that not all answers had been found and continued to investigate the forest in search of clues. One day he stumbled upon old records and diaries belonging to the previous residents of the cabin, where he found Melissa. These records told of strange occurrences and disappearances of people in this forest over many years. The diaries spoke of an ancient evil that inhabited the forest. People talked about visions and strange creatures they encountered at night. All this indicated that the forest was a place where worlds intersected, and what dwelled in it did not obey the usual laws of nature. Hunt realized that he had encountered something beyond his experience and knowledge. He contacted colleagues who dealt with paranormal phenomena, and they confirmed his fears. The forest was a place of power, and the monster he met could be just one of many lurking in its shadows. These creatures fed on fear and suffering, and they were nearly impossible to destroy. One night, Hunt received a call from Melissa. She was in a panic and said she had seen the monster again. It appeared at her window, its eyes glowing in the dark. Hunt calmed her down and promised to come as soon as possible. He felt that this was not just a coincidence, and that they needed to act quickly. Arriving at Melissa's house, Hunt saw that the door was broken open. He rushed inside and found the girl hiding in a closet. Her face was pale with fear. "He's here," she whispered. Hunt drew his weapon and began searching the house but found nothing. However, he knew that the monster had been there and that it would return. They decided to leave the house and go to a safe place. Hunt took Melissa to an old acquaintance who was a specialist in paranormal phenomena. She lived in an old, well-protected house on the outskirts of town. There they could feel safe and prepare for the next step. The specialist, Anna, listened attentively to their story and confirmed that they were dealing with ancient evil. She explained that monsters like this one could cross boundaries between worlds and that the only way to stop them was to find and destroy their source of power. It could be anything: an artifact, a place of power, or even a ritual. Anna suggested performing a ritual that could reveal the monster's source of power. For this, they needed to return to the forest and perform the ritual at the very place where Melissa had been kidnapped. Hunt and Melissa understood that it was dangerous, but they had no other choice. They had to stop the monster before it caused more harm. At night, they returned to the forest, armed with everything needed for the ritual. Anna drew a circle on the ground and lit candles. She began chanting ancient spells, and the forest came alive. The trees stirred and shadows began to move. Suddenly, the monster appeared from the darkness, its eyes glowing with rage. It lunged at them, but Hunt and Melissa were ready. Anna continued chanting, and the monster began to weaken. They knew that the ritual was working, but they needed to hold on a bit longer. Hunt, using all his strength, fought the monster while Melissa and Anna completed the ritual. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook, and an ancient amulet surrounded by strange light emerged from the ground. Anna shouted that this was the monster's source of power. Hunt grabbed the amulet and threw it into the fire. The monster let out a piercing scream and began to dissolve, as if evaporating into thin air. When it was over, the forest fell silent again. Hunt and Melissa, exhausted, sat on the ground. Anna, also tired, smiled. "We did it," she said. They had destroyed the monster's source of power, and it could no longer threaten them. But they knew that the forest was still full of mysteries and that they needed to be cautious. Returning to town, Hunt and Melissa felt they had overcome a great threat, but they decided to keep their secret. They understood that if anyone found out about the monsters and sources of power, it could lead to new troubles. They decided to tell no one to protect the town and their loved ones. Melissa gradually returned to normal life, but now she was more cautious and vigilant. She knew that the world was full of hidden threats and tried to be ready for any surprises. Hunt continued working as a detective, but now he was interested not only in crimes but also in paranormal phenomena. Several years passed, and the town became peaceful and quiet again. But Hunt and Melissa always remembered those events. They knew that somewhere in the world, there still existed creatures like that monster, and that they needed to be prepared to meet them. Their story became a legend, one that no one knew but which had changed their lives forever. As our journey through mystery and peril comes to a close, remember that courage conquers all. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and leave us a comment below. Your support means the world to us as we continue to unravel more stories of the unknown. Stay tuned for more adventures ahead.